why you get security clearances revoked, and John Brennan did not break any of them. The ability for former officials to maintain their clearances isn't a gift to the former officials. It's so their successors can call on their predecessors to get guidance, to get support, to get information.
Can't that still happen, though?
Well,
can't they be reinstated, most of them at a high level? Not all.
I don't know if there's a way to overrule the president on this, but the point is...
but if there were a need, national security.
Well, the point is it's not a gift to these former officials. And I will also say that, you know, the idea that because former officials are speaking out publicly, that somehow they got on a list and now they're being punished by taking their clearance away. It's not going to change anything John Brennan does, but I do agree with him in that it smacks of sort of going against his ability to speak freely. He has done nothing to abuse his classified access because he probably doesn't even have access
anymore. Can I ask you,
what do you think then, what does it do to the intelligence community to have someone like John Brennan accuse President Trump of unfounded things like treason?
Well, I will say I talked to a lot of my former colleagues at the CIA. A lot of them were very upset yesterday because they still really like John Brennan. Now, some of them don't. And I will say...
And should he be out there saying things like that?
Well, but look, I worked there under George W. Bush and under Barack Obama. And Mike Hayden, who I love and I worked for, was critical of the Obama administration's policies after he left office.
Well, I think there's a difference, but hold on.
But Sean, so the question is, what's the line, right?
But I think,
what goes too far? Right. And Donald Trump is taking this for partisan reasons.
But I think that there's a difference between being critical of the policies and talking about things that he would have had direct knowledge of and is still questioned whether he has not. If you have a clearance and you're talking about an investigation, an active investigation, it clouds the idea for the viewer to know whether or not you're speaking based on experience or based on your access to information. So it's one thing to be critical of overall policy. So if Brennan was out there talking about our foreign policy, that would be one thing. And then I think we'd be having a completely different discussion.
So where's the line?
But the fact is he's talking about an active investigation about intelligence that he's had access to. And he's not out there making it clear, which is saying, he's not out there saying, I have not looked at anything new. I have no new information. He is not allowing the viewer to discern whether or not what he knows is based on active intelligence that he has access to.
He's actually said that. He said this isn't, I haven't gone in and this isn't based on anything I know now.
We don't
and
know
it feels
that.
petty, like the Wall Street
Well, they're
Journal
not paying him or hiring him based on the fact that they like him. They're paying him and hiring him because they know that he had access
and I'll give Comey
at least.
I'll give Director Comey some credit here because my understanding is that Comey proactively went out and said, I don't want a clearance anymore because I don't want there to be.
Was that before or after the book?
Oh, it was after the book, I think, when they've asked him to review something. But the fact of the matter is, at some point, at least making it clear that I don't have access, therefore I can't be blamed, or no one can view what I think of as an opinion based on any kind of active intelligence.
Well, so this is not just President Trump making this argument that security clearances should be not revoked, but put it away after these officials leave their office. Senator Rand Paul has made the point that you just did about the fact that when John Brennan is going out on cable television and he still has access to classified information, we don't know who he's talking to. You run a serious risk of accidentally, unprovoked, exposing classified information in an unclassified setting. When it comes to what the requirements are for getting a security clearance, there are a number of them. There are also reasons why security clearances get revoked.
Yes,
but when you look at the situation and you look at the requirements, character, trustworthiness, honesty, reliability, discretion, and sound judgment are all requirements to obtain a security clearance. So based on how John Brennan has behaved over the course of the last year, over the course of the Trump presidency, the White House is looking at it and saying he is doing the country a disservice by going out with a security clearance and acting in this fashion. Now, they have argued that this is an attack on their free speech. No, it's not. They still have the ability to go and criticize the president, talk about their experiences. You are not entitled under the First Amendment to a security clearance.
Well, also, all right, I want to get in here with this because we have this live shot of the White House off to the left side of your screen, and that is because the president right now is holding a cabinet meeting inside the White House. Now, contemporaneously, we're getting some notes coming out of there, but there is a camera that is not going to show it live. So we will show it in its entirety when we gain access. But meanwhile, the president opening his remarks now in that cabinet meeting. I want to begin by expressing my condolences of a person I knew well, Aretha Franklin. She was given a great gift of her voice, my warmest, best wishes and sympathies. And then he went on to talk about the economy. He called on Larry Kudlow, economic advisor, and is touting that for right now. So as we get more notes out, and certainly if in that pool there is a reporter who would ask a question about the situation with John Brennan, we will bring you that information as quickly as possible. Lisa?
Well, all I was going to say is I find it a little bit rich for the guy, John Brennan, while he was at the helm of the CIA, had to apologize to Senate Intel Committee members for spying on them and then lying to them about the fact that he spied on them. So I find it a little rich that he's out there now bemoaning abuse of power, when clearly he, at the helm of the CIA, abused his power.
Lisa, here's what bothers me.
Looking back at the fact, I don't think it's quite as vindictive as using the IRS to go after political opponents either.
But let's talk about security clearances. Mike Flynn maintained his clearance by all accounts when he left DIA. He went on the campaign trail. He stood on stage at political rallies and called for Hillary Clinton to be locked up. His clearance wasn't revoked. Donald Trump didn't call on him to have his clearance revoked. So it just looks like Donald Trump wants to revoke clearances of people who criticize him politically. And I don't like that. I think it's politicizing the security clearance process. And maybe people should stop focusing on John Brennan's clearance and actually on what he's saying, because he's raising some interesting things I think people should think about.
You also look at someone like Peter Strzok, he just got fired.
But how do you respond to Mike Flynn?
I mean, they asked, I actually agree with you. I think this idea that Mike Flynn, it's not that just Democrats who happen to be in the intelligence agencies then go out and benefit.
I'm not sure John Brennan's actually a Democrat.
Then whatever. He's certainly anti the current administration. The point is that there are Republicans who serve in administrations and Democrats, and they both go out and then benefit from their experience. But when it comes to the time now, we're in a different time than we were 2 years ago. Hillary Clinton was not the president of the United States trying to take care of the country's business and to keep the country safe. John Brennan and his commentary, again, there's a line there. If he still has access to classified information, as he has done in the past, he has exposed CIA operatives on the ground inadvertently. There is a case to be made that he shouldn't have that access anymore, whether he's using it or not, to prevent that national security risk from coming up.
And one of the questions is, are we just too generous with the words inadvertent, accidentally? In terms of this, should there be a stark or bright line on just cutting people off when administrations change? I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, I think, look, I as someone who's had one for 20 years, I think Marie's right. You want to be able to call people back into government, or the cost that the American taxpayer funds for people to get them. There's a reason you want them to maintain them.
Can you easily reinstate?
It's not reinstate. It's active. So secret clearance is active for 10. A top secret is active for 5. And if they don't get renewed, then they go away. But the idea that you want to maintain them allows people who come in and out of government service, or maybe they're a contractor that gets pulled onto a classified project. You can't wait. Right now, the backlog is 12 months. And so
we want to be able to take this when it comes up. I apologize, but I'm being told by our producers, one of the things that might be asked about with the president inside this cabinet meeting, and again, we're just getting dribs and drabs right now, so as it happens, we'll take you there, might be about this John Brennan thing, which is exactly what Sean Spicer is talking about now. I would ask the question, could the president have gone through one of the other venues, an agency, FBI, just to have them review the process before doing this? That just might be a question that's asked too. The president now responding after hundreds of newspapers ran coordinated editorials today going after what they're calling the president's assault on the free press. Sean, of course, faced many of those reporters daily. What? We'll get your reaction, Sean. Okay. And the moment of truth for Paul Manafort could come today. We're on verdict watch in the trial of the former Trump campaign chairman. What the jury's decision will mean for the Mueller investigation, if anything at all. Stay close. And we are awaiting an opportunity to show you the president's remarks as they are being gathered right now by a pool of reporters. The president has mentioned, as he meets with his cabinet today, that the Parkland shooting the anniversary was yesterday. He's talking about school shootings and mentioned some reforms and the administration has taken in response. He's also talking about strengthening mental health laws and procedures, just giving you some notes that are coming out of there. And of course, we saw upwards of 300 editorial boards gathering with newspapers across the country today to write pro-journalism editorials. And the president just told reporters, quote, if you'd like, you can stay. If you'd like, you can leave. Freedom of the press. So a little bit of the color in the room there at the White House, but they are hitting these topics and might even be talking at some point, if asked, about the security clearance revocation of CIA Director John Brennan. Lisa?
All right. And another Fox News alert, a verdict could come at any moment. The jury now deliberating in the bank fraud trial of former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. Prosecutors tell the jurors the evidence is overwhelming, but the defense slamming Robert Mueller's team's star witness, Manafort's former right-hand man, Rick Gates, painting him as a liar. Peter Ducey is live at the federal courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia with all the latest. Peter?
Lisa, the jury this morning asked the judge for a sort of change of venue. They thought the jury room was too small to deliberate, so they asked if they could do it in the break room instead. The judge said that they could, and that is where they are right now. This is the first day of deliberations, and the judge, T.S. Ellis, wanted to make sure that the 6 men and 6 women from Northern Virginia are focused more on the evidence than on the sometimes salty comments he made to the Mueller team about their approach, their witnesses, and their evidence. So the judge told the jury, since you're the sole and exclusive judges of the facts in this case, you should not construe any comments the court may have made on any question or any questions the court may have asked witnesses as expressing an opinion on the evidence. The Mueller team conceded in their closing argument that their star witness, Paul Manafort's former business partner, Rick Gates, might have some credibility problems. Prosecutor Greg Andres told jurors they don't need to trust every word Gates said, but they should put it into context with the rest of the evidence. And Andres, from the Mueller team, stressed that, quote, ladies and gentlemen, the star witness is, in this case, is the documents. The Manafort defense team, meanwhile, thinks they have wedged enough doubt into the Mueller team's case